I am Angie Ham, a volunteer with AARP Texas, and I am pleased to welcome you to an exciting event that is part of our celebration for Hispanic Heritage Month. Every year from September 15th to October 15th, we take the time to recognize and appreciate all the contributions that Hispanics and Latinos contribute to our communities. And this year, we're celebrating in a big way with a variety of free virtual events. So you'll get a chance to learn about our Brownsville history, cooking, gardening classes, while learning different aspects of self-care that you can work on all from the comfort of your own home. These videos, culinary events, historical readings, and more are among some of our presentations that will bring to life our proud Hispanic culture. I also want to tell you that AARP is here to help you and your families navigate through this pandemic. So we're encouraging you to get the free COVID-19 vaccine so you can protect yourself, your children, your grandchildren. And for many of you, there'll be an opportunity soon to get the booster shot to ensure you stay protected from the deadly coronavirus. We want you to have information that you can trust. Learn more by visiting www.aarp.org/vaccinefacts. Thank you, and let's get on with today's presentation. With today's presentation, I'm excited to have with us today special guest Ramiro Gonzalez, who is the Director of Government and Community Affairs with the City of Brownsville. Thank you very much for being our guest today as we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, Ramiro.
Thank you for having me, Veronica.
So, Ramiro, when we first began working together at the City of Brownsville, and I had, some projects that we wanted to get done with AARP. You were the then acting director of planning. So you've seen a lot of work, come to fruition in Brownsville. We saw the development of the hike and bike trails that connect a lot of our historic sites in Brownsville that can be accessed by walking or riding a bike. So how did you find out about the Jagou Plantation? And tell us a little bit about Mr. Jagou.
He was ahead of his time in the Valley. And so if you look at the history of Brownsville, you look at the architecture of Brownsville, there really is a close connection to New Orleans. And the reason being is because New Orleans was a port and Brownsville was a port. And so when you had to get cotton out of Brownsville, you had, into the international, into the world, then the next port stop was New Orleans and vice versa, right? So there were things that you could find in New Orleans that you couldn't find in Brownsville. And so he settled in Southmost. He settled at what we now call the Jagou Plantation. The site really now is about 3 acres. Originally it was 640 acres. He was planting citrus maybe about 20 to 30 years before citrus became a thing in the Valley. He was growing grapes. He was making wine. He was doing all kinds of innovative things on his plantation in Brownsville. 12 years ago, when I started at the city, I met a parks director. He had been taken out there by somebody, and he said, "You know what? I really feel that we need to do something, and we need to do something to save this place." And so, when you go out there, it's really interesting because you feel like you're stepping back in time in Brownsville, right? You have this little bridge that is not necessarily the most significant bridge in the world. You can tell it didn't really have a transportation purpose. You could see that maybe it connected the two sides of the plantation that were separated by a Resaca.
where did that water come from, and what is a resaca?
So resacas are, there's a lot of things, but they're basically old tributaries of the river, right? So, when we think of the river now, we think of a river that's very linear. But at the time, there were no dams. There was really nothing. And the Rio Grande Valley is in the Rio Grande River Delta. And so really the resacas are, some people call them oxbow lakes. The term of oxbow lakes is really when a tributary gets cut off from the river. And so that's how resacas came to be. And so we currently use resacas as a matter of transporting water through our city. Our utility board pumps water at the river, and then we use it as storage and transportation. They're also used for stormwater. A lot of the stormwater in our city drains towards the resacas. And so, when you go there, you step back in time, you see this bridge, and then you see these beautiful trees. The Montezuma Cypress is really easy to confuse with the bald cypress. The bald cypress is the cypress you see in San Antonio. You see it all across the Riverwalk. That's a bald cypress. The Montezuma Cypress is a little different. When the area was being settled, the Montezuma Cypress was really good lumber. Probably the best lumber there is, right? So most of the trees were cut down. Most of the old houses are built from, the really old houses are built from cypress trees. Boats were built from cypress trees. So you come upon this area that has a bridge, and it has about 40 to 50 trees still along the Resaca bank. You can tell these trees are about more than 200 years old. So, it's really like stepping back in time in Brownsville, and that's what makes it so unique. Brownsville's the oldest city in the valley, and it's the oldest city in the valley by probably 50, 60 years. And so a lot of the valley history started in Brownsville. But fast forward to today, why is it so important? Like I said, it's one of these areas that you when you're there, you just feel it's special. You can just feel it when you're there. And so, and it really takes you, back in time, and you can kind of imagine what all these Resaca banks look like, what the river looked like, with these cypress trees. So, because they were the most prominent tree around, but they happened to be the best lumber. Brownsville was founded and grew up, and and it is what it is today because of the river and our relationship to Mexico.
So, the bridge which is a gorgeous bridge, by the way. I know it's fallen over time. There was two walls along the bridge. One of them has fallen off, and the other one is half has deteriorated over time. What is being done to help keep those trees alive?
The city uses resacas as a way to transport water, and really resacas have water currently because we use it. We found a way to use it for transport. Otherwise, it would look very much like the Jagou resaca, which is the Jagou is a resaca that's even more isolated from the system, and therefore does not get water as we move water through our city. And so what we've done is we've pumped water in. There is an ability to pump water in. So just over, this year we pumped in about 3 or 4 times. We pumped in water. But more importantly, the idea is to find a long-term solution and connect that Jagou system back to the big system of resacas.
When you all put together the master plan for the hike and bike trails, is this part of the connectivity to the hike and bike trails? Or
yeah. So one of the trails that is currently funded and currently under design is the Southmost Trail. If you go into Southmost, we have phase 1 that was already completed, but there's an additional 2 or 3 phases that have yet to be completed and designed. But yes, this site eventually will connect. You can go from Palo Alto Battlefield to the Jagou Plantation site, along a trail, and not necessarily ever interact with any car traffic. Those are kind of both ends of the trail system, right? Palo Alto and the southmost trail would actually end at this site. So we're really excited. I think we're still about a couple of years away from seeing the southmost trail actually completed.
You're all about preserving Brownsville history in Brownsville, and making sure that we know where we came from in Brownsville, and we want to make sure that those buildings are preserved in a way that every generation could see them live on. So what does Hispanic Heritage Month mean to you?
The first battle of the U.S.-American War, which gave the U.S. the West, right? California, Arizona, Montana, Idaho. The first battle, probably the second battle, were fought in Brownsville, right? So how amazing is that, right? So that's not, the battle started here, it didn't end here, but it started here. And so when you put it into that kind of framework, it's like, wow, But Hispanic Heritage Month, I mean, for me, it's a time to celebrate who we are. It's a time to celebrate the border culture. The tacos in Brownsville, they've taken on a life of its own. But really, I love being from here. I think it's a special place to be, and and we just need to be proud of where we're from, and who we are, and that's what Hispanic Heritage Month means.
I think I'm going to ask the mayor for a designation to be adopted as a Brownsville resident.
There you go.
I love Brownsville. But I hope everyone enjoyed our live event as we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. On Wednesday, October 6th at 12 p.m., I will have our special guest, Dr. Tony Zavaleta, who's the author of Curanderos. You don't want to miss this one either. Thank you once again to Ramiro Gonzalez with the City of Brownsville. This concludes our Facebook Live.